Welcome back, folks, to the Membership Machine Show. This is episode 48. I've got my new glamorous, intelligent co-host, Karmen, with me. We're pumped up. I think we've got a good subject here, folks. We're going to be comparing Patreon with WordPress fundamentally, or with other membership site alternatives to Patreon. I think we got some great insights. It was a topic that Carmen suggested. So if you've got any complaints, just email her. So there we go. Oh, that was horrible, wasn't it? So, oh God, Carmen, would you like to give the new listeners and viewers a quick intro about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Karmen Kendrick, and I currently work at LearnDash as a product marketing manager over there. And in my spare time, I just like to look at things on Pinterest, home decor, cook, all that good stuff. Oh, and
Yeah.
skate.
Oh yes, she roller skates, which I cannot do. Listeners and viewers definitely can't do. Um, not in my imagination, that's for sure. Uh, um, well, before we go into the meat and potatoes of this great show, I've got a couple messages from our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Back, folks. I just want to say that we've got some great special offers from the sponsors, plus a curated list of the best WordPress plugin solutions if you're looking to build your membership website on WordPress, and I think you should do. To get all these free goodies, all you have to do is go over to wp-tonic.com/deals. wp-tonic/deals, and you find all the goodies and all the plugin recommendations there, so you don't have to trawl the internet to find the best WordPress solutions. What more could you ask for? Probably a lot more, but that's all you're going to get on that particular page, listeners and viewers. But there we go. So, Carmen, where do you think we should start with this discussion about Patreon? What do you see as its real appeal to somebody trying to monetize their social media, the YouTube, their content online, basically?
Yeah, I think our number one point is just the ease of use. It's not like you have to really do a lot yourself. And so if you're already creating, your content on something like TikTok, then it's very easy for you to get started on Patreon. You don't have to like really figure out too much stuff. They kind of have everything set up for you already.
Yeah, I think even if you really haven't got hardly any kind of background about building websites or online platforms, you can get Patreon set up pretty quick, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
Right to you. I think that's overall thing. So let's go through the list, pros and cons. So I think we just touched the ease to use and setup. It is pretty straightforward. You just enter your details. You've got membership tiers, and it's got one interface, folks. I think before we go into the list, what I was hoping for my intro was what was be your why would you be looking at Patreon? What would appeal to you, and what do you see as its case studies about the type of people that would be looking at it, Carmen?
Yeah, so if you are, most people have maybe like at least one YouTube channel that they follow pretty closely. And a lot of those creators on there, they're using Patreon. So, with YouTube, it takes a little bit to get monetized. I forgot the standards. I think you need at minimum 1,000 subscribers. You probably also need content that is suitable for YouTube and their advertisers. And so, what will happen is a lot of the content creators there, if they have not monetized yet or they want to create more revenue for themselves, they'll go on a platform like Patreon to offer exclusive content. From their existing content over to sell those members only type of subscribers on that platform, Patreon.
Right. So obviously you're because of your job and your background, you're following a lot of these people. Are there any good examples that come to mind that people on your radar that have been using Patreon?
I can't say any big names because I'm very like niche down when it comes like to what I watch on YouTube, especially content creators. But
Unlike me, I watch any garbage that's on there.
So I would say the most suitable is probably there is a young lady on YouTube. Her name is Alexandra Grader or Gator. She's based in Canada, but she does a lot of content on creating special spaces, or not special, but really small spaces, and doing a lot with them, even though they're really small. So people have like I don't know, like 300 square foot studio apartment, and she'll just go in and just create so much storage space, but she offers some of her premium content over on Patreon. So a lot of times when I'm watching those little shows, I'm like, hey, I wonder, how long has she been doing this? Like, what made her think of that idea? And like, hey, where did she actually find this piece from? And so her having like a Q&A session after her videos premiere on YouTube, that's another revenue stream because she can charge members a monthly price to say, hey, for like, I don't know, $10 a month, you can, after the show premieres on YouTube, come on over to my Patreon and we can do a live Q&A. And that is exclusive content just for those people that are paying subscribers.
Yeah. So do you think, I kind of was thinking about this. I see it as a kind of mini step in giving you extra income before you get to those 1,000, but also even after it. But you're providing probably more access to you and a bit more additional content than what you would put on YouTube channel. I see it as a kind of stepping stone between you getting content on YouTube, on TikTok, or on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever the platform is, that's getting engagement. I see it as a stepping stone between that and maybe having your whole full membership website in some context. Is that how you're viewing it?
Yeah, I think that's definitely one way to approach it, as a stepping stone. Or you just have someone like they're listening to this podcast and they're just like, you know what, I'm gonna like go ahead and just start from day one thinking about the bigger picture, which I do recommend because if you think about the bigger picture, where you eventually want to go, it'll help you not have to move platforms as much and have to, go back and redo steps.
Yeah, there's a couple that I periodically watch on YouTube. They live in Ecuador. That they moved to Ecuador. They were living in Denver, and the male partner was had some health issues, had some back problems, and they had a lot of expenses to pay. And then they decided to move to Ecuador, and they built a YouTube channel about people thinking of moving to Ecuador from North America. And they have a Patreon channel, and they have additional videos on there, and they have a question and answer sessions as well. And they just put more video content on there, and they also provide PDFs around certain subjects if you're thinking of moving to Ecuador. So that's how I see it. Just providing more content that might help you. So, what do you see as some of the drawbacks to it?
So content ownership is important. And to my knowledge, you do still own your content if you're on something like Patreon, but they still make the terms of use and terms of service. So at any point, there could be something where, maybe you're not going with your rules or whatever the case may be, you're violating their terms of agreement or service, and your content could be taken away, or you lose your platform. Another is, which isn't terrible, is that they do take a cut. But it's understandable because all you have to do is put your content on there. You don't have to do like any of the hard work of like building the website. So that can be a drawback. I think we'll talk about that later about the tiers of how they price those. Of course, I think the higher your plan, the less fees that you pay. So you're always going to pay fees, but I'm pretty sure it's more if you were to go through a straight PayPal or a Stripe, which is usually around 3 to 4% of each
Yeah,
transaction.
just one thing on there. I didn't
Yeah.
clarify in my own mind. I think it starts around 7-8%, but is the Stripe
Mhm.
on top of that?
I don't think so. I think it's kind of just built into it. They
Right.
probably Patreon probably uses Stripe or PayPal to process payments, but it's probably just all built in. That would be pretty terrible if it was like on top of that.
It would be. That's why I'm asking it.
Yeah.
But I didn't clarify it in my own mind. Sorry. I think the plans take 5% and Light takes 5% and then Pro takes 8% and Premium takes 12%. That's a bit rich, isn't it? 12%.
Oh, I thought it got smaller as you went up in plans, but it seems like it's getting bigger.
It does, doesn't it? The 12. If you're not watching this, Carmen's eyes got larger when I said 12%.
Yes.
There we go. But no, I took this off their website, so it seems legit to me. Features, I think you get more. You get team accounts. With the 12%, you get team accounts, dedicated partner manager. You get a partner manager, Karmen.
You get support, which they should be supporting their product anyway. So
Yeah, it's a kind of with the Pro, you get all the features included in the Lite membership tiers, analytics and insights. I got to tell you, folks, unless there's a real big case, membership. Oh, that's the thing. I think you could probably have to go with, well, I don't know what to say, because it looks like you've got to go to the Pro to get the membership tiers, don't you? And then you pay 8%. I would attempt to utilize Patreon unless there's two cases here, folks. If I have no plans of building a real hardcore community with training and courses, I would probably I was just looking at a platform where I could engage people a bit more and offer more content, the same content on the platform, which was the main mechanism to publicize myself on. I would just utilize Patreon. If I got any other ambitions, I probably still would use Patreon, but I would utilize it as either to get myself started or use it as a gateway to move them on to another platform. Because if I'm going to generate any numbers and that, the 8% is a bit rich, really. What do you reckon, Carmen?
I agree. And I'm looking at their pricing page now, and I realize it says plus payment processing, currency conversion, payout fees, and applicable taxes.
Oh my God, they know their fees, don't they? Oh my God, fathers.
So from a company perspective for Patreon, it's really good for them because I think a lot of companies kind of suffer. Like if you put like a set price, like, hey, we're only going to charge you 19.99 per month, like, you're only going to get 19.99. But if you have really successful creators on your platform, they're making so much more money from Patreon. Um, but once you get to that level as a successful creator, you really don't need Patreon. Like you have enough resources, I would think, money and people that you can pay to get your own platform and not give them a cut of anything. Um, and then, I mean, we haven't even talked about like what taxes yet. So it's like you're paying your 12% to Patreon. And then I wonder when it comes, I mean, I'm not no tax expert, but I wonder when it comes to taxes, are they looking at your net after you've paid your fees, or is that like a part of that? Like you made, I don't know, 100,000, but 12%, which I'm guessing is what, 12,000. So, like, which one are you actually reporting to, to the government about how much you made? So that can get tricky.
Yeah, I was wondering on this expensive. I think it is expensive, but if you're just starting off and you're just trying to build something and you're looking for a really quick, easy way that you can literally get going, you've got to put content in and you've got to put it is one of the quickest ways where you're not totally relying on the platform. So YouTube have just got their own membership platform. I would not advise somebody to build. It's really, in my opinion, really, really dicey to build your membership with one of the main channels, and you want to diversify. It's best to choose the main channel and build your audience, but then try and diversify as much as you can. But it is expensive. I think the other issue is that there's been some. I looked online and there was some stuff about issues around charges and refunds, and they got a little bit of a track record of not being. If somebody asks for a refund and that you don't get it.
Wow.
I did a little bit. There did seem to be a little bit of a pattern there, but how true it is and how they've changed things, I do not know. It's as we have talked in the first show that you became a co-host. Its strength is also its weakness. It has one option, it gets you going, but it has limited up-branding experience, i.e., customization. You pay for that ease of setup with a total lack of flexibility. And I think the other thing when I was doing my research, which didn't occur to me, is that it's a chronological feed. The way you display stuff is totally limited, and that's quite a powerful con, which didn't occur to me until I did my research. What do you think of that, Karmen?
Yeah, so I guess I'm not really clear on that part as much because I know I have a feeling like, say you follow maybe 5 people on using the platform, then I'm thinking there's like a timeline, like social media, that you'll see like your favorite creators and it's chronological as far as like who posted last. You'll see their post first is at what it's referring to, or
Yeah, I think it's just the way if you're adding content, the way it's added.
oh, okay.
Where if you've got your own, you can set how it's displayed any way you like, can't you? But here, it's chronological feed, design choices. We just touched that. Lead patron, creator, burnout, and you, unlike a membership site where you constantly with this, you constantly got to keep feeding the beast.
Oh,
where
yeah.
you do have that with a membership site, but you can literally have seasons. I know a few people that have built a very successful niche in a certain niche membership, and they have a season where they bring in new people in, and they have a marketing season. They literally go on every podcast. They literally go on every YouTube channel in their niche, and they promote. And the membership's available for like a 4 or 5 week period to get access to it, and then they close access till next year. Obviously, you've got to have a certain reputation and provide real value and be seen as a real industry leader to pull that off. But I do see a few people doing that. Have you seen that,
Oh
Carmen?
yeah, of course. And like you said, it just depends on like the size of creator. And I think everyone that, especially new creators that go onto a platform like Patreon, they're looking at the top 1%, but it definitely takes time. Not saying that you can't be, but it takes time to get to that top 1% of people.
Yeah. But I think the amazing thing is the niches people find on YouTube. It's such an enormous market, isn't it? What I'm trying to get across is that you can make a really income that can change your life. And by not thinking you're going to get millions of views, by utilizing a tool like this and a membership site and combining it with the content you put on YouTube or other platforms, you can still build a really sizable income that can be a sustainable side hustle. And I think in this age, depending on your main employer, and not having it, especially if you've got a family and other commitments, I think it's always best that, and I think it also having it, it kind of promotes yourself in the industry that your main employment might be. It keeps you seen as somebody that's building influence anyway. Is that making sense, Carmen?
It does. It does.
What's your own views on this?
I mean, pretty much the same. Building influence. It's like your main source of income, and so it looks like you're more reliable versus like you have like a lot of things going on. So, makes sense to me.
I think yes. I think it all combines, the things that can build your influence in your career path in industry, you should be doing anyway. If you could then also combine it with a income source. And I think it's one of the few things that because it's self-fertilizing in a way, it helps you with your career path. It's sustainable and can grow into if you wish to, can grow into something that can replace your full-time employment. But it's totally up to you. And I just don't think there's many pathways that give you that number of choices. It's one of the things that really excites me, really, about this whole area, Carmen.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
Right. I think we're going to go for our break, folks. And when we come back, we're going to look at some of the ways you might be able to do this with WordPress, really. We will be back in a few moments, folks. Back, folks. I think we're giving an insight about Patreon, its strengths and some weaknesses. I think we've done a reasonable job. If we haven't, please tell us. Give us feedback. We love to hear from you. So before we go into the second part of the show, I just want to point out that if you're looking to build a membership website on WordPress, and I think you should be, have a look at what WP-Tonic has to offer. We really provide more than quality hosting. We provide a whole library of premier plugins that are focused at specifically helping you build a membership thriving business, basically, plus email, plus a whole host of other functionality and support at a very reasonable price. So go over to WP-Tonic and we'd love you to become a part of the family. So, what I think, obviously with you're highly involved with LearnDash parent. Well, I'm not going to go into it, but it's kind of in a company that has a major hosting provider in the WordPress space. So I think number one thing, if you're going to build a membership website where you moved on from Patreon, or you're combining Patreon with a membership website, and you're looking at WordPress, and we both, I would say that both of us think that you should build that membership website on WordPress. Would you agree, Carl? I know you work with, but I think you would say that anyway, wouldn't you? Because
Yeah.
and why do you think somebody was asking you, a friend or somebody you knew, why would you think you would still recommend WordPress to them?
Yeah, it's the bigger picture. I mentioned that earlier. Um, it's just when you get to a point, because I mean, if you decide, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to keep at it, you want to have as much flexibility and control over your platform. And right now, WordPress is somewhat easiest way and the best way to accomplish that. But you have to be thinking that way from the beginning, because it's so hard. Like, not just memberships, but anytime you do something one way and you have to change paths later on, it just becomes very difficult to get yourself, into that new platform, whatever it is that you're doing. So just thinking about where you want to go in the future from day one is why I always would recommend WordPress, and usually it's going to allow you to achieve that goal, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think it's really WordPress does a poor job, really, and I call it digital sovereignty myself. That's the term that I utilize, because I think having as much control that's feasible, that's practical, is really important, because I think depending on what area, your niche, the area that you're passionate about, folks, there is a possibility that you might infringe on the terms and conditions. But I think a more bigger problem is that the business model of the platform that you're relying can change quite dramatically. I think that's a more bigger concern. Patreon is charging you 8% at the present moment, or they might decide that that's not good enough. We're now going to start charging you 10, 15%, whatever, or we're going to alter the actual focus of the platform, and we're not going to we're going to give you 3 months notice, and then we're probably going to kick you off because you no longer fit into. We're pivoting in a new direction because we haven't obtained enough revenue, and this regularly happens, and I think people don't take this into account. What's your own feelings about that, Carmen?
Oh yeah, it definitely happens. I haven't heard of this with Patreon. Some people may be familiar with a platform which is very similar to Patreon. It's called OnlyFans. Right now, or for the past few years, they've been known more so for adult content, but that was not what the platform was
No.
started from. It was meant to be just, hey, sell a subscription to whatever it is that you
Yeah.
do. And for whatever reason, just the adult world just came onto that platform. And a few years ago, I think that was like maybe 2020, 2021, they said, hey, we don't want any more adult performances happening on this, and you got to leave, got to go somewhere else. And there were people that all of their income came from that, and they went back and they repealed that, and they end up like say, hey, like it doesn't matter, it's going to destroy our business model, but it definitely happens. That's probably like one of the most extreme examples. But like pricing can change, as you said before, what they allow, even now, because we're such in a time like politics. So I can imagine with election season coming up in the US, like, what somebody may be very politically charged content. They could, say like, hey, you can't be on this platform because of what you're saying. So there's just so many different things. And, here in the US, it's like freedom of speech, but it's like freedom of speech depending on that platform that you're on. So
Yeah, I think the other one, I always pronounce it the craft orientated platform. I always forget its name.
is it
What?
Etsy?
Etsy.
Hmm.
I think Etsy really comes top of mind for me, Carmen, because they have had some real change of terms and conditions, and it's really affected some of their users quite badly. And that's happened on a couple of occasions, hasn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think I'm trying to think what was the Etsy situation that went on recently, but I've definitely heard about them in the news. Gumroad is another one. They changed their fees. So it really affected the top creators, because I think it's like 10%, or they were going to 10%, one of those things. And so the people that weren't making as much money, like they always pay 10%. But if you ever dreamed of, hey, I'm going to be this creator that makes, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars on this platform monthly, then someone taking 10% of your income is pretty big, especially paying taxes on top of that. So it's so many examples. And I think that's the thing that, you know, a lot of creators just don't think about this in the beginning.
Right. So to get going on WordPress, I think number one is you've got to choose a decent quality WordPress hosting provider. I think all pain on WordPress starts with really looking to purchase the most cheapest hosting that comes on your radar.
Hmm.
And normally it leads to you leaving WordPress because you get extremely frustrated extremely quickly. So be um, selective about who your hosting provider is going to be. Would you agree with that, Carmen?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that you have to look at this as a business, and it's like you get what you pay for. So if you're going to get $5 for a whole year of hosting, like you can probably have one person every 3 months on your website, and not more than two people come and visit. So you definitely want to invest. And I guess it's a question I want to spin back to you. If someone's brand new, how would you recommend they go and look for a good word? Know they're getting a good quality WordPress host.
Well, it really depends. It's a really fantastic question, but a difficult one because obviously I'm going to
Mm,
say WP-Tonic, aren't I?
of course.
But in general, if I exclude WP-Tonic, I think it's a little bit difficult because some like I don't know what Liquid Web's policy is, but let's look at WP Engine, which they're fantastic people.
Mhm.
It's a fantastic company. Jason, the founder, is a friend of mine. Uh, um, it's just a fantastic company. Um, but if you've got a membership and you've got a learning management system, they they love their garnish, and garnish is a form of my brain's going dead here. It's a form of storing your a version of your website, and almost all hosting providers provide caching. That was it. They use Varnish as their caching engine. There's different types of technology utilizing caching, and all hosting. Caching is the enemy of a membership website.
It is.
Uh, um, we switch it off totally on the back end, and then we select, we allow our users to select that the front end If there's certain pages they want to switch it off as well, we switch it off. But you find a lot of the leading, I think WP Engine, Liquid Web, I think Rocket.net has become very popular. I think it's Rocket.net. It's become popular with certain groups of WordPress freelancers, developers. But I think they got their caching. I think SendGrid was very popular, but I think they're falling off the radar a bit. But I think Kinster utilizes a fair bit of caching. I think one of the problems a lot of people have with WP Engine is that they can get a response and they will switch it off, but then it comes back pretty quick. Kinster, they have moved their pricing. They've gone upstream to some degree. Some of their pricing's got a bit rich. But there is about 4 or 5, but there's also a group of hosting providers which I wouldn't recommend people that look at having their membership website on that particular host. What's your feelings about that? What was your response to what I've just said? Please be honest. Do you think I'm incorrect in what?
Oh, no, not at all, especially when it comes down to caching. Like the average person probably does not have any idea what caching is, but dynamic content, so content that can't just be like, it's just what we call static. So you bring it up and it's always the same. And so caching, what am I trying to say? So dynamic is like constantly changing. And on a membership site, LMS site, or learning management site, things are always changing. Users are going to different things. So you can't keep things static and the same. Like you constantly you're asking the database for dynamic, different things. So caching can be a huge thing. I will say this, something that makes it easy. I know we do this at LearnDash. We do have a blog post and like a list. If you contact our support team and ask like, hey, what hosting is the best? And we have Liquid Web on the list because of course we're owned by Liquid Web, but we have others such as like Cloudways that's on that list, and a few others I can't think of top of mind. But a lot of times, whatever platform you're thinking of, and they want the best for you as well, because if you're having a big problem with the hosting, that just means support tickets coming back to that company as well. So if you are looking in that space, whatever platform you're looking at, or plugin, I should say, ask them about, hey, which hosting do you recommend?
Yeah. Also, just keep in mind that if you're a hosting provider and you're not utilizing a lot of cache, it's going to cost you more money. That hosting provider has to make money to continue its service. You're not going to find the cheapest solution from a decent hosting provider that's not overdoing the caching side. It's just that's the fact of the business, folks. But on the other hand, you shouldn't be taken to the cleaners. It's like having your car serviced. It's like anything. So let's go on to number 2. So what should be the key technology building block? I think utilizing a learning management system from day one is the right decision. And the 2 that I would recommend is either LearnDash or Lifter LMS. And I think we had that discussion last week, didn't we? Because I think there's a couple others, but I think they are the clear 2 solutions. Even if you weren't working for LearnDash, Karmen.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think you would say to people, look at LearnDash or look at Lifter LMS, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. When I was just freelancing before my days at LearnDash, those were like the only 2 that I would, unless the client had their own thing they were looking at. So I think that's also another important piece, because you do have a lot of membership, which is just content protection plugins that are offering courses. So that's also, I think, a good piece to kind of spin off about as well, because if you're a content creator, you're probably not needing advanced course features.
Yeah, I'm just kind of proof. I think it's not a ridiculous price. You just need to use the bit that's relevant for you at that present moment, but you're also linked to what you said in the first half, changing platforms,
Yeah.
having to change stuff. I just think for the cost, you kind of you're proofing yourself when you're going to get a little bit more serious about the course creation side of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a tough decision to make. So it's just like, hey, do I lean into the course? But I think you are correct on that. Because that probably will be a big part of your membership is offering courses anyway. So choosing that course, whether that a course provider, whether it's LearnDash, Lifter, LMS, I think that is an important piece to it. I think the only thing that becomes kind of limiting is the membership actually protecting different content on the site. I'm not that familiar with Lifter LMS, but do you need a membership plugin if you use Lifter?
No, you don't. Not at all.
Mm.
You just need to buy the ad. If you're going to monetize it, you just need to buy the Stripe add-on for $120, and off you go. So yeah, that's the strength of Lifter, but LearnDash has its strengths as well. It's just it has a bit more integration with third parties, but they're very head to head. So that's why I support both. And I like both companies. I like the people. That's why I asked you to be my co-host, and then you were gracious to say yes. But I also like the Lifter LMS team. So so it's great to have choices, folks. On to number 3. So that's the key. I would say you probably don't need all the functionality of either of those, but you're future proofing, and it does provide the structure so it offers the functionality that you probably would need at the beginning, folks. On to number 3. What's the next key part of your building tech structure on WordPress? You need a website builder and a page builder. Now, I call Gutenberg, I call it the yellow brick road, and Carmen's Dorothy, and I'm what am I? I'm the scarecrow. Yeah, definitely the scarecrow. So, oh God. So cadence is the future, guys, but I think you need an interpreter. You need a platform and obviously there's other page builders out there, and they're fantastic. But I think cadence is. I think Gutenberg is definitely become a solid. It offers speed, and it's just going to take more and more market share. And I honestly feel the best interpreter that really puts Gutenberg in a way that somebody like you, who's not a WordPress professional, is Cadence WP. And the great thing is part of your family as well. So you can say great things about it. So, but that's my honest opinion. I've been using Cadence for the past few months, and I've been really impressed with it. So, but there are other Elementor. There's some other third-party building block platforms that use Gutenberg as well that are fantastic. There's a number of solutions out there, but I think what Ben has done with his team with Cadence, I've been really impressed. What's your own feelings?
Oh yeah, they are even though we're like still like the same family of brands, they are very passionate about Cadence. The community around Cadence is like so big. It's like one of our fastest growing brands within Liquid Web. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I've interviewed him a couple of times. He's a great developer, and the thing is, I think he's got a real vision, a real focused vision where he's taking Cadence, and I think you can see it in the product, can't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, the other key part is you're going to want to send marketing email. You're going to want to send out a newsletter. You want to keep in contact with your users and update them with all the fabulous content that you're providing. You want to be able to upsell, inform, and that. So marketing automation is really important. And until a couple of years ago, it was really a failing of WordPress.
Mhm.
That is not the case now. And two that I highly recommend is Fluent CRM or WP Funnels with MailMint. I think they're the clear two leaders. I love Fluent CRM, but I also like WP Funnels. And they added the email functionality. The thing that confuses people is with either Fluent CRM or with WP Funnels, you're going to need what I call an email sending backbone engine. You're going to need a third-party provider to actually send out those email. I think all hosting providers, and I'm surmising even Fluent, at WP-Tonic we provide this, but most other providers, they will allow you to send out a certain amount of email per day, which are really focused about transactional email. And what I mean by transactional, somebody finishes your course, an email is sent with a certificate. Somebody subscribes to your membership, they need to receive an email with their invoice. They are what I classify as transactional. Most hosting providers will allow that type of email. They will put a restriction, but normally, unless you've got a huge website, you'll probably be able, those restrictions will still be functional. Most hosting providers do not want you utilizing their email functionality to send out marketing email or newsletters to thousands of people. They won't let you do it, and you rapidly will be breaking the terms and conditions of your hosting provider if you do that. And you do not want to peeve off your hosting provider, do you, listeners and viewers? So you're going to need an engine. I'm sorry, listeners and viewers, if this has been a long-winded, but you got to know this. So you're going to need a provider to send out. The one that I recommend, but we also provide it as part of our hosting package, is with SendGrid. There's a couple of others of these sending engines. And you have to, I think with SendGrid, I think for 100,000 emails per month, it costs you slightly under $20 a month. And then you can utilize either Fluent or WP Funnels to send out automizations and newsletters. That was a little bit long-winded, was it, Karmen? But I think it had to be said. Do you think I did a reasonable job there, or do you think I've just confused everybody?
No, I think what gets confusing sometimes, but you explained it about having still that email service provider, which I call them, which was going to be like your MailChimp or your, what do you call it, active campaigns, but you need some software like Fluent CRM on your site. So when certain actions happen, someone finish a course, it's going to tell that email system like, hey, send this person that email because they did this task or this happened.
Yeah. So basically, but Fluent CRM, and I'm pretty sure that WP Funnels also, Fluent CRM until about 6-7 months ago, it didn't have a newsletter builder. You could do, but it would just send its focus was on very plain text email, but they've introduced a fantastic newsletter builder as well, and I think you get that with WP Funnels. Well, I'm sure you do.
Nice.
So they both. The problem with, it's not a problem if you know about it. WP Funnels you could build the automation, but they didn't have a visual way of email sending out newsletters. But they've added that on with MailMint, and they're both, for what you get, they both can replace something like ActiveCampaign, and they offer almost all the marketing functionality of a system like that. And as you know, when it comes to the automation side of it, MailChimp isn't a great solution.
Not at all.
No, it's really awful. And they've changed their pricing. The free service, they limit it to 500 now. So it's a very less attractive platform. The thing with ActiveCampaign, it's fantastic, but it gets very expensive very quickly, doesn't it?
Yes, it really does. I think because I'm on the smallest plan, I think 1,000 contacts is maybe like $39 per month. And then if you want some of the more advanced features like connecting the e-commerce, so you're able to see like, hey, this email produced $5,000 in revenue, those plans get more expensive. But I'll say it's worth it at the end of the day. Like on the WordPress side of things, I do think that some of the drawback is because you do have to get other things to work with it. But I mean, it does its job really well, like once you have those things in place.
Have you at all been looking at Fluent CRM and WP funnels? And if you set up SendGrid account, I think it is about $19, and I think you get 100. I have to double check it, but I think you get 100,000 emails. That covers you for a long time. And have you at all been looking at it, or I'll just leave that until I really need something a bit better, something more? I don't know how to word it. Have you looked at it at all, or you just stuck with ActiveCampaign until you're not really?
Yeah, I think because of the way that we use both, because we use Fluent CRM at work, and we also use ActiveCampaign.
That's really interesting. So what's your view on it? Come to any conclusions?
Yeah, so I think, I want to say, because Fluent has a few different plugins, and I'm trying to make sure I'm actually talking about the right thing, but we'll use like Fluent for like forms and different things of that nature, but we still connect it to ActiveCampaign.
Yeah, so you're talking about Fluent Forms.
Fluent Forms. Okay. I was mistaken on that. Okay. But it's another one that we use on our course site. So LearnDash has an academy where you can learn how to use a product. And we use Uncanny Automator on that, which we use to like tag different actions. And so that way it sends it to ActiveCampaign. So it's just so many different ways to use it. I didn't even realize it. So yeah.
Well, I'm loving you. Oh, I loved you before, Karmen, but I'm loving you because these are all premier plugins that we offer at WP-Tonic.
Oh, nice.
But the main two ways is Uncanny Automator is just fabulous, or you can use WP Fusion. There's a bit of overlap. I think you used if I had been in the companies, I probably would have used WP Fusion to do what you did, but you can use Uncanny, and there is a lot of overlap, which does cause a little bit of confusion, but they're both fantastic. So I think we're given. I think the technology stack that we've outlined here, plus knowing that you need really good hosting, I think everything you can do with Patreon, you could do. It's just getting it set up. There's going to be more setup, but I think you would be future-proofing yourself, and you would be, if you're looking at some of the higher Patreon levels of 8% to 12%, you won't be paying that, and you have a lot more control over your business. So how would you wrap this up, what are the, I don't know how to wrap it up really. I think how would you do it?
Yeah, so I think there were two things. You can either go the Patreon, like you say you're brand new, you can go the Patreon route, get started today. It's very easy. Um, or you can think about the future and like, hey, I don't want to sacrifice my future earnings just to get something up quickly, and look at what it would take for you to take the WordPress route, which we have outlined. You can look up all these things and see what your costs are going to be. However, if you look at the WordPress site, even though you may come up front with a lot of money that's spent out, the good thing is like you could always change things around. We just told you about three different plugins. What was it? The WP funnels, the Uncanny Automator, and what's the other one? Fluent CRM. So if Fluent CRM has a price increase, not saying it's the easiest thing, you can always move things around. When you're on a platform like Patreon, like you have to just go over to a completely different platform. You can't just pull one thing out and switch it out with something else. So those are all things to think about. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but if you do decide to go on Patreon, just go ahead and make that mental note that at some point I'm probably going to have to move my platform somewhere else, and hopefully that's WordPress.
I think I would look at the light version. But if I'm looking to move, if I feel that I've got a stage where I'm going to have to move, I think they call it Pro, the Pro version, the next level up, I think that's the cutoff. I think if I need some of that functionality that comes up to the next level, that's the trigger where I probably would I need to look at WordPress. I've probably got a WordPress website anyway, and I'm utilizing Patreon with YouTube or TikTok. And because I'm used to WordPress, and I've got to the level where Patreon Lite doesn't fit my business model. I think that's the trigger when I would then look at investing in building that increased functionality on WordPress. I think that's how I would rationalize it.
Yeah, and I think that it kind of goes not to just tech stack, but business strategy as well. Maybe you start off only just offering Q&As on like Patreon, but when you're ready, it's like you said, to launch your online courses, that's maybe at a higher price point. And so you can kind of keep the Patreon if you want, but it's not like you've tried to build the entire thing on Patreon. Like, that I'm only going to do this, make some money from it so I can get my site that I really need on WordPress.
Well, Karmen, I think it's been a fabulous show. I think these shows are just kind of putting thoughts into our listeners and viewers, giving a bit of insight, putting stuff in front of them that they might not have thought about. I think we've done a good job in this particular show. So, Karmen, what's the best way for people to find out more about you, your thoughts, your roller skating? What's the best way, Karmen?
Yeah, I feel bad. Last time I just told you all about Twitter and I think Instagram, but I do have my own platform as well, and I'm actually in the process of rebuilding it. I finally have time. So you can check me out over at karmenk.com. And it's a site up, but it's a work in progress. But that's where you can really find out personal stuff, business stuff. It's going to be like a whole site of just all things Karmen. So yeah, but it is currently up.
I'm probably going to put you on the spot here. So hopefully you're utilizing Cadence to build it. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. All right, I'm sorry I put her on the spot. All right, there we go. We get off that one quick. I was being a bit naughty there. I apologise. She's going to tell me off for that. But you better learn Cadence pretty quick. So there we go. It's been a fabulous show. If you, I just want to point out, folks, we've got a fabulous WordPress, a Facebook group area where you can have access to me, Cadence, or hopefully Carmen hopefully agreed to be a admin as well. We've got a really growing community there. But to find that Facebook group, all you have to do is put in searches WP-Tonic, the membership machine show, and it will come up and you can join us there. We will be back next week with another fantastic topic. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.